There's a strange moment that happens sometimes when you're sitting in traffic. You look over at the car beside you and see someone staring straight ahead. Maybe they're singing along to the radio. Maybe they look exhausted. Maybe there's a kid asleep in the back seat. Maybe they're dressed for work, or crying, or laughing at something you can't hear. And for just a second, something clicks. That person isn't an extra in your life. They're living a life just as complicated as yours. They woke up this morning with thoughts already running through their head. They have people they love, people they miss, things they regret, embarrassing memories that randomly come back at 3 in the morning, songs that remind them of someone, places they can never visit without remembering what happened there. They have an entire world inside them, and you'll probably never know anything about it. That feeling has a name. Sonder. Sonder is the realization that every random person you encounter is living a life as vivid, detailed, and emotionally complicated as your own. The word itself is relatively new. It was popularized by John Koenig's Dictionary of Obscure Sorrows, a project that created words for strangely specific emotions that people experience but often struggle to describe. And Sonder might be one of the most powerful concepts to come out of it. Because most of the time, we naturally experience reality from the center of our own perspective, not because we're selfish, because we literally have no other choice. You hear your thoughts, you remember your memories, you feel your pain. You experience the world through your eyes. So your brain constructs a kind of invisible stage around you. You're the protagonist. Your family members are major characters, your friends are recurring characters, your co-workers are supporting characters, and then there are thousands upon thousands of people who appear for only a few seconds. The cashier, the delivery driver, the woman walking her dog across the street, the guy standing behind you at Walmart, the person whose comment you scrolled past online, the stranger sitting 6 rows ahead of you at a movie theater. They enter your awareness briefly, then disappear. But they don't disappear from reality. Their story keeps going. Imagine looking out the window of an aeroplane at a city at night. Thousands of lights. Every one of those lights could represent a room, and inside those rooms, things are happening. Someone is proposing, someone is breaking up, someone is studying for an exam that they believe will determine their future. Someone just got terrible news. Someone just got incredible news. Someone is watching television with their father without realizing that years from now they would give almost anything to experience this completely ordinary evening again. A teenager is staring at the ceiling, wondering what their life will become. An elderly person is thinking about something that happened 70 years ago. A child is having the greatest day of their life so far. Someone is being born. Someone is dying. Someone is unable to sleep because they're terrified of tomorrow. Someone else can't sleep because they're too excited. And all of this is happening simultaneously, right now. That's Sonder. And when you really think about it, the scale becomes almost overwhelming. There are billions of human beings alive, billions of perspectives, billions of internal narratives unfolding at once. Consider how complicated your own biography is. Think about all the people who influenced you, your childhood, your friendships, your mistakes, your private jokes, your fears, your relationships, your favorite songs, the things you believed 10 years ago that you don't believe anymore, the tiny decisions that completely changed the direction of your life. Now realize that virtually everyone you pass carries a similarly enormous archive inside their mind. The stranger who annoyed you in traffic might be driving home from the worst day of their life. The rude employee might be worried about losing their apartment. The quiet person at work might have an unbelievably rich inner life that simply never intersects with yours. The old man eating alone at a restaurant might once have been 20 years old, surrounded by friends, convinced that youth would last forever. The person you envy might secretly envy someone else. And the person you assume has forgotten you might occasionally remember something you said 15 years ago. We constantly walk through the invisible aftermath of other people's stories. There are houses you pass every day where someone experienced the happiest moment of their life. There are parking lots where relationships ended, restaurants where future married couples had their first dates, hospital rooms where entire families changed forever. Ordinary locations become sacred or painful because of experiences known only to the people who were there. To everyone else, it's just another building. That might be the strangest part of Sonder. The enormous gap between what a person means to themselves and what they mean to everyone else. You might spend years worrying about something embarrassing you did. Meanwhile, everyone who witnessed it barely remembers. You might think about someone every day while occupying only a tiny corner of their memory. Or you might have profoundly affected someone without ever realizing it. A compliment you forgot giving might have arrived exactly when somebody needed it. A cruel sentence you barely remember might still echo in someone else's mind. You can appear in another person's life for 30 seconds and still become part of their story, and they can become part of yours. There's something humbling about that. You are extraordinarily important, but you are not uniquely important. You are the center of your experience, but you are not the center of existence. Everyone is standing at the center of their own map, and those maps overlap for brief periods of time, sometimes for decades, sometimes for years, sometimes for 5 minutes, sometimes for the length of a red light. Then they separate again. That idea can feel almost melancholy. Think about how many people you've already seen for the last time without knowing it. Old classmates, former co-workers, neighbors, people you met on vacation, someone you talked to at a party 10 years ago. There was a final moment when your lives intersected. No dramatic music played, nobody announced it. You simply said goodbye, walked away, and the two storylines never crossed again. Their life continued somewhere beyond your awareness, and yours continued beyond theirs. But Sonder isn't only sad. It can also create compassion, because it becomes harder to reduce people to simple categories once you remember that they contain histories you cannot see. We're extremely good at turning people into labels: idiot, loser, rich person, poor person, conservative, liberal, boomer, Gen Z, customer, employee, stranger, enemy. But labels compress human beings. They take something unimaginably complicated and flatten it into one characteristic. Sonder does the opposite. It restores depth. It reminds you that the person standing in front of you existed for thousands of days before this interaction and will hopefully exist for thousands more after it. You are seeing one frame from a movie you haven't watched. And then there's the internet. Social media might be the largest machine for creating the illusion that other people have simple lives. You see a photograph, a username, a comment, a 15-second video, and your brain fills in the rest. Within seconds, we decide who someone is: successful, pathetic, happy, attention-seeking, beautiful, cringe. But you're looking at a fragment. Behind that tiny rectangle on your screen is a human being sitting somewhere in the physical world. There is a room around them. There are sounds outside the camera. There are unanswered messages on their phone. There are worries they didn't include in the post. There are memories you will never see. There are entire chapters of their life completely invisible to you. The internet connects us while simultaneously hiding almost everything that makes us human. Maybe that's why Sonder is worth deliberately practicing. Every once in a while, look around. Really look. At the houses while driving through a neighborhood, at the passengers in an airport, at the windows of an apartment building at night, at the names scrolling past in an online conversation. And remind yourself, every one of those people has a first-person perspective. There is no crowd from the inside. There are only individuals, millions and billions of people saying, "I," inside their own heads. And one day, every one of these stories ends, including ours, which makes the moments where our lives intersect surprisingly important. We are temporary characters in one another's stories, sometimes major characters, sometimes background characters, sometimes just a face passing on the sidewalk. But while we're here, we leave traces. A conversation, a kindness, an argument, a joke, a memory, a photograph, a sentence someone remembers long after we've forgotten saying it. Maybe Sonder is ultimately a reminder to be a little slower to judge, a little more curious, a little more patient. Not because every person is secretly good, not because every action should be excused, but because every human being is more complicated than the few seconds of their existence that happen to involve you. You will never know most of their stories, and they will never know most of yours. But for this brief period in the history of the universe, all of us are here at the